Would you give your life for political change? Or at least your evenings and weekends? Do you realize that a lot of people say they want political change? They complain about the absence or the need for it, but they're not really willing to pay the price for the change they want to see. What about you? Are you willing to pay the price? I'm Dr. Lisa Ann Chung, a political leadership strategist, author of the book Political Change, and also president for Kenley College. So let's take a few minutes and talk about this price. Now, not everybody pays the same price. It varies depending on who you are, where you are, and for some people, the stakes are higher than others. Some, sadly, have and will pay the ultimate price. Think of the names Martin Luther King Jr., John F. Kennedy. You had Mandela, Gandhi. They paid the price with false imprisonment. Now, there is somebody that I want to mention to you because when I wrote my book in January, when it was released in January of this year, there's a name that I mentioned in it who I believed was going to play a significant role in terms of political change right here in the UK. The book is not limited to the UK, but he was going to be a key player. And his name is Nigel Farage. Now, the interesting thing about what I mentioned about him in the book is when the book was released in January, Nigel Farage had no interest in coming into the political arena in terms of frontline politics again. But he decided that the need for change, as he saw it, was so great that he would have to put aside his retirement and come back in to frontline politics, take back over the leadership of the party that he started, Reform UK, and as well as run for a constituency. Now, when Nigel Farage decided to do that, there was an immediate impact, even seen with the polls. Within 2 weeks of his return to frontline politics, his party, in the polls at least, has overtaken the results for the leading Conservative Party. Now, not everybody is a fan of Nigel Farage. I understand that. It's not where I'm trying to get you to see. What I want you to see is, one, the significance of that book in terms of predicting what would happen in terms of political change, but also recognizing that someone like Farage, who had faced 2 attacks in 1 week, one was a milkshake attack. The other was, as his bus was passing, his tour bus was passing, someone on the side decided that they wanted to pelt him with some unidentified objects. Now, not everybody responds to Nigel Farage that way. Not everybody's going to respond to you that way. And I know not everybody likes Nigel Farage. But hey, not everybody's going to like you either. Not everyone's going to agree with your perspective, your approach, or your hope for the future you want to see for your nation. So, will you have to pay a price? Now, think about what kinds of price, what type of price you might have to pay. It might be as simple as you don't lead the normal everyday life like everyone else. You can come home after your job, you can put your feet up, you can go to a movie, watch the TV all night if you choose, and start the next day just having an ordinary existence like the ordinary citizens. Or you may not get as much sleep as you would like because you're planning, you're visiting, you're doing some door knocking. You're having to look at how you will make this change a reality. So you might find that your price is going to involve a financial price. It might involve a social price. It might involve other prices. What is your price going to involve? Because if you're going to think about anything related to political change, you've got to realize there is going to be a price you have to pay. So think about that before you get in, and I don't want to scare you, I just want you to think about the cost. What a lot of leaders don't do before they step out is they don't think about the cost. Some of them don't have a lot of time to think about the cost. For example, when the current prime minister decided to call a snap election, and I'm sure if you're in France, you probably experienced this as well. But when the current prime minister of the UK decided to call a snap election, most of his party were not prepared for it. They didn't realize that they would have to actually get up and get moving. What about the other parties? They may have to face that reality as well. They had to quickly regroup, quickly rethink, rejig their strategy. That was going to be a price they would have to pay, because maybe the long game they were hoping for, or the longer game they were hoping for, was not what they were faced with. So I want to tell you about one person who is a female mentee of mine who decided that she's going to run for parliament. What was her price? Her price is to get herself out of her comfort zone. She actually prefers to be behind the scenes. And she says, can't I just do all of this out of the limelight? Because she's not too much of a fan of the limelight. So the price for her is stepping out of that comfort zone of being in the front of people and on a larger scale. But when she thinks of what she actually needs to do to accomplish the change and have the impact she wants to have, she pretty much doesn't have a choice, even though you always have a choice. So now her comfort zone is going to be shaken up. And that's the price she's going to have to pay. See, she doesn't necessarily have to pay the ultimate price, but she still has to pay a price. So think about, what's your price? Are you willing to pay that? I know of somebody else, another person, who thought about, well, if I'm going to pay this price to become an MP, it's going to mean that I have to move out of where I live and spend more time in the capital city, because that's where Parliament is. And in her case, she didn't want to do that. So different price they were choosing to pay. One said, I don't have a choice because this is where I need to serve. This is the level that I need to serve at to achieve the changes I want. The other says, for me, it's more important for me to be with my family at this time. So even though I want to make the change, I'm not prepared to pay that price. So I want you to think for yourself. Have you thought about what price you may have to pay? Have you written it down, looked at it, counted the cost or counted the price to you, to your family, to maybe your job? Have you thought about the price? And are you willing to personally pay the price that it costs for political change? That's what I want to leave with you today. And if you have not gotten my book yet, Political Change, by all means, don't take it for granted, because if you really want change, you need to be equipped for it. And that's why I wrote that book. You need to be equipped for the change. You need to be prepared for the change. You need to know how to navigate the change. So I'll put the link in the description for how you can get it. But in the meantime, you ready to pay the price? Look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.